All right, YouTube, we are live. You guys got live first. So forgive me while I set up TikTok's live. All right. All right. Live on TikTok. Live on YouTube. Okay, we are good to go. Give me just a moment. All right. We're live and ready to rock. It is another beautiful morning in Kenya. YouTube has face tracking, so you guys actually have a different view than the live folks over on TikTok. But we are back and getting back into it. So I did get a bunch of your emails after the last live, as far as what's going on with the building of the houses and the construction sites and all that great stuff. The number one question, though, was around trust estates. I think I might do a day just for trusts and all of that, because the estates are incidental to the person wanting to create the trust, right? So that's how that works. So typically when people are focused on generational wealth, they're focused on offshore trusts and all of that, then one of the options that they kind of have is to set up a trust estate as like a base of operations or an FOB for their family moving forward. And so a lot of folks that are interested in just constructing whatever are not necessarily focused on like trust estates. So I have seen your messages on that. Don't think that I'm just not answering you guys on that. But I think I'm going to do a day on how to do offshore trusts for generational wealth purposes, how that works, why it works, how the money works, all of that stuff. And I think we'll do like a separate live on that. Unless just a bunch of questions about it pop up today. So we'll go from there. So beyond that, there are three designs that are coming. So we'll end up setting up those three designs in three different series. There's a standard design, and then there is the smart update. So there'll be a bunch of new smart houses coming out, since we just got back from China and just finished that stuff. If you want to see more about that, go check our social media. You'll see us doing the negotiations in China and all that with our new engineers and some of our old engineers. But we wanted to upgrade the smart houses because smart tech changes so quickly. The last smart houses we built are not on par with the new smart technology. So we went to the source, we went to all the smart device factories in China, spent a month out there, and we made sure that we brought back the best stuff for you guys. Hey, CJ, how are you? Yeah, man, we were in China for a while. Yeah. So the smart houses are incredible. Everything is either accessible by app, voice control. There's some retinal control stuff that can be added to like door locks and stuff like that. The toilets talk to you, the fridge talks to you, the stove talks to you. The smart houses are pretty cool. So those upgrades now will include that new tech, and then the standard houses are the standard houses. Smart houses all come off-grid enabled. Standard houses are all off-grid ready, right? So standard houses you can upgrade to full-on solar and all of that stuff. Smart houses come with a full solar system and battery backup and all that already hooked in. You want to go to China? We might actually do that. We're thinking about taking a group to China in April. So if you're serious about going to China, you can go ahead and reach out to our business WhatsApp, and then we'll put you on a mailing list and we'll let you know when we're going next. Ina, CEO on the TikTok side of things, says, "What about farmland?" What about farmland? Are you asking us if we deal in farmland? We've built farmhouses and we've set up farm companies. So our law firm deals in immigration law, it deals in business conveyance law, and land conveyance law. And there's a couple other things that we do, but for the purposes of these lives, that's our specialty. And so, yes, if somebody needs to do due diligence on a piece of land and make sure that it's legitimate and whatever, our law firm will handle the due diligence. If someone has an actual agribusiness, like they're doing farming as a business, and they want to make sure that they have all the proper licensing and all the proper permits and all of that stuff, then we go ahead and help them with that. Okay, I thought it was buying land. Yeah, so we don't keep like stockpiles of land. We have a couple plots of land right now, and that's essentially stock that we hold to make things faster for people. So what ends up happening is most of our clients come from the UK, the US, or Canada. They move to Kenya, or they open up a business in Kenya, and then they need land, right? Because you can't move here and not have a place to live. And most of them are not about renting for the rest of their lives. So they typically come over, we find them land, we make sure that that land is clean and legitimate through our law offices, and then we convey that land under their name, right? So the whole titling process, which you might call in the United States a titling process, is called conveyance here. So we convey that land under their name and for whatever purpose that they might have, and we go from there. So we do locate the land and initiate the purchases and all of that on behalf of our clients, but we're not like land brokers. Like, that's not what we do. Right now, I think we have 2 acres or something like that sitting around just to make things expeditious. Because if we got to search for new land, what ends up happening is that might take 6 months. So if we see land and it's a good spot and we know that, our clients are going to buy it within the next 3 months, somebody's going to show up and buy it, then we'll kind of hold on to that stuff. But we're not like land brokers where we have like hectares of land just sitting around and like selling it to people. Want to go learn Kung Fu? Yeah, no, look up Golden Lotus Kung Fu Academy. They'll also be going at the same time, and they'll be going for Kung Fu CJ. So if you want to go to China for Kung Fu, they're planning a trip, I think right around the same time we are, and it's a Kung Fu trip. It's not a business trip like ours. Yeah, no problem, no problem. Typically, we focus on the coast. We've built, we've built farms in Kericho. We've built houses in Kisi. Where else? Kisumu most recently, Nanyuki. So we've built all over, but we focus on the coast. So most of our stuff is like beachfront stuff. Like, we're on, obviously, the palm tree behind me. We're on the beach right now. So most of our stuff is in this area, which is already a tourist area. So it allows for economic activity that doesn't bother like any locals, right? Which is important to me. So, if you go to a place that's actually a residential area, it's not really a tourist area, and you start doing Airbnbs, that might affect local economic activity. But if you come to a place that's already a tourist attraction and has always been a tourist attraction, and you just do tourism, then you're fine, right? So we're intentional and conscious about where we set up certain clients and certain businesses. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. What talks to you in the smart houses? Okay, so in the smart houses, the thing that talks the most is actually the toilet, right? So the toilet is almost set up like an Alexa. If you're on the TikTok side of this live, just flick through the TikTok videos. If you're on the YouTube side of this live, just go to my Facebook, the company Facebook, not my Facebook, and flip through the videos, and you'll see this kind of conversation between me and the smart toilet at the factory. But essentially, you just, hello toilet acknowledges you back. and then you tell the toilet to set everything up the way you want it and get everything going, or do whatever you want it to do. So it's pretty cool. You can have it clean itself, you can have it clean you can have it increase the heat on the toilet seat, you can have it, do all kinds of different things. So that talks the most. I'd say what talks probably second is either the fridge or the stove. And so the fridge slash the stove, well, not necessarily the stove. The fridge has a thing. I think it's a Samsung account connection. So if you have like Galaxy devices and all of that, it can connect with that. Then it has a big giant screen on it, and you can like write notes to family members and all that stuff on it. And those notes can be updated. So like during the day, if you're like, ooh, you know what, we need eggs, you can whip out your phone and add eggs to the shopping list, and it pops up on the refrigerator list and all of that stuff. So there's that, and then the stove is just as smart, and you can start it from being out, and there's an hour before you come home, and so you start whatever's in the oven, and it heats up by the time you get home, and it turns off and all of that stuff. So the smart stuff is just that. It's a smart house upgrade for people who enjoy that type of stuff. It's a luxury upgrade. The standard house is a standard house. It doesn't talk to you. There's no smart aspects of it. It's just a really well designed house. So the three kind of set designs are there's a two-story, what we call a nomad. So it's a two-story, two-bedroom. I think it's about 1,900 square feet. Then the next design up from that is a single-story rancher, so single-story, three-bedroom. That one is a little over 2,000 square feet. And then the next one up from that is a mini mansion. It's 5,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2 family rooms, foyer, like the whole nine, right? And it's two-story. And so those are our set blueprints, and you'll see more and more and more about those, and you'll see 3D walkthroughs for some of them, and you'll see walkthroughs for others. We've just finished 3 of the ranchers, so you'll see a bunch of different kind of iterations of that one coming in. There's already that footage out on our Facebook and our TikTok. And then the mini mansion is the big boy. That's a really, really, really nice house. We ended up pricing that house in Florida, and in like Fort Lauderdale, Florida, not like West Palm Beach or the Keys or anything like that. But in Fort Lauderdale, that particular design would price for $6 million, right? It's like 540,000 here. So super, super nice house. If you don't know about square footage and houses and all that, ask Google to show you a picture of a 5,000 square foot house. then you'll see what it is that we're working with there. And so those are our 3 set designs. We own our own architectural firm. We own our own law firm. We own our own general contracting firm, and the whole nine. So we're vertically integrated, right? So plenty of people come through. I'd say about it's less than half, maybe 40% of people come through and design their own thing from the ground up, which is fine. That's why we have the firms we have, right? But beyond that, most people just pick something that we already have happening, and they just pick that and go with it. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Looking off to the side because there's 2 of you guys here. This is TikTok. I showed that to YouTube. This is YouTube. I just showed you to TikTok. So that's why I'm looking left and right. There's 2 sets of people commenting. That's what. Utilities. I'm assuming you had a little typo and you're asking me what the utilities costs here in Kenya are. For our clients, minimal to zero. The only utility that our clients have to engage with is typically internet. The houses can be built. If it's a standard house, you have to upgrade to off grid. If it's a smart house, it comes off grid. So you don't need an electrical connection if you don't want one. Everybody has their own well, so you don't have a water bill. Everybody has a biodigester or a septic tank, depending on what you decide you want. So you don't have a sewage bill. You might have a trash bill, but typically where we build, you're allowed to burn. So if you're a trash burner or whatever, you don't have a trash bill. So really, the only bill that our folks have ends up being their internet bill, right? And so that's part of the freedom aspect of Diaspora Freedom Initiative, and that's why we don't do apartments, right? We're here for freedom. We're not here for you to be stuck making payments for the rest of your life. A lot of the land that we deal with is quote unquote agricultural land. So that being the case, there's not even taxes on that, right? And the government might change that; they're trying to, but currently, any land that's classified as agricultural land is tax exempt. So no property taxes, no water bill, no electric bill, no trash bill, no sewer bill. So, as far as the utilities are concerned, that's a big part of the freedom aspect of why, people do this. Are you a dual citizen? Almost. I will be within months. The government shuts down in December. I was hoping to get it by the end of this year. That probably won't happen, but I should have it by February. So my son's already a dual citizen. I should be a dual citizen here by February. I'm already a dual citizen with another territory. So when you're doing the generational wealth stuff, part of that is what's called passport portfolioing. You should have a passport portfolio that gives you access to capital markets that you want to have access to as a citizen. And that's something that you actually pass along in inheritance, right? So you make sure that you pick those countries strategically so that every time you have a kid, the kid inherits all of those countries and then maybe one additional country, right? So like my kid has one extra passport than me. Right now, I'm like earning another one, so it will be back, neck and neck. But my son he's only 18 months old. He already has one additional passport than I have. That's part of the plan, right? And so every generation gets deeper and deeper reach globally, all right? And that's just part of our generational wealth plan. So if you plan it, right, then passport portfolio is part of your generational wealth. The generational wealth plans that fail are the plans that focus solely on money. Because you focus solely on money, and then the next generation doesn't know what to do with that money. They don't have any education. They don't have any literacy. They don't have any access to capital markets that could save them, right? And so, when you're looking at like a financial crash like 2008, 2008 could have wiped me out in the United States, but I had multiple citizenships, so I was able to invest in markets that were not affected by the 2008 housing crash, right, in the United States. If I didn't have the access to do that, then I might have got wiped out along with my peers who did get wiped out, right? So that's what the passport portfolio is about. It's the ability and the flexibility to maintain business no matter what's really going on locally. Same thing with COVID, right? If you guys have been following me that long, you remember in COVID, I was flying all over the place. And a lot of people were like, how are you flying? I'm not allowed to fly. What's going on? I'm stuck at home, shelter in place, blah, 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 blah. I was flying because you can't stop me from going home. Right? So if I have multiple passports and I go to that country where I have a passport to, whether, I'm a U.S. citizen or not, you can't stop me from doing that, even with the lockdown. With the lockdown, people went home, right? And they sheltered in place at home. So I was able to, pull out this passport, go there. When I'm done doing what I have to do there, pull out my U.S. passport, go back to the U.S. When I'm done doing what I got to do there, pull out the next passport, go where I need to go there. So that's what passport portfolios give you the flexibility to do. They take time by design. They take time. Sometimes they take investment, right? And so like for Like Hong Kong, we had to own a property in Hong Kong for 7 years. And then you can get the Hong Kong SAR passport, one of the most powerful passports in the world, actually. All right, but you got to own property there, and property is not cheap there. And you can't rent it. You have to own property there for 7 years. Right. Then there's other places where, like British Virgin Islands, you just have to buy a piece of property worth a certain amount. Right. So we got, I can't remember the amount right now. I don't have BV citizenship, but if you wanted it, you buy a piece of property, $750,000 or something like that. I'm sure that covers it, and you can apply and get that passport. So different, jurisdictions have different requirements. With British Virgin Islands, their big thing is that, like, you can afford to take care of yourself. So there's different focuses as well as to when and why and how they give out the passports. And sometimes it's just about you being able to take care of yourself, and they make sure that you're not going to kind of be on like welfare type of situation. Sometimes it's about property ownership. Sometimes it's about business ownership. Some places won't allow you to have multiple citizenships, and those places essentially get X'd out by individual family heads, not X'd out in the family strategy for generational wealth. You just got to pick which member of the family you're going to have lead in that territory. So Singapore is one of those places, right? The heads of families are never Singapore passport holders, because Singapore forces you to give up your other passports in order to do that. So you end up having to pick someone who's going to relinquish the rest of their passports to handle, whatever the family needs, typically the family office. So to handle the family office in Singapore, because if you have a family office in Singapore, then Singapore treats you really, really well. Some places you're not allowed to have multiple passports unless you're born there, right? So I have clients who travel to certain countries to give birth, because if the kids are born there, then they can have dual citizenship. If they're naturalized, they cannot. Right. So it definitely depends on what your strategies are, what you want to do, where you want to do them. And then you just follow the plan. Discipline is the hardest part. Following the plan is the hardest part. Any other questions on that? I will tell you this. I get questions about that stuff all the time. It's the questions I get the most, and the business I do the least. And that's a bit of a problem, right? None of that stuff works unless you take action. So it seems to be the thing that people want to hear about the most, right? But take action on the least. So nothing's going to happen for your family, generational wealth wise, if you don't take action, right? Wealth is literally a byproduct of action. Okay, riches, not so much. Riches is a different thing. Right? Riches can happen and no action, you took no action. Something happened to you and you got a legal settlement and now you're rich. Doesn't make you wealthy. But wealth, right? Money that makes itself money without you doing anything. Wealth takes action, right? You have to initiate it, and there has to be a plan, and you have to follow the plan, and you have to be disciplined, or else it's not going to work, right? So you'll look at guys like Warren Buffett. Look at how they did what they did. And it's always a matter of staying the course and just doing the discipline daily, right? And then compounding. The beauty of compounding is it's guaranteed. The only thing that's not guaranteed is when. Could take 100 years, could take 10, right? But compounding is guaranteed. So that's why, your richest people don't really care. It seems like they just feel like they're going to be, rich forever, and wealthy forever with these wealthy families. And it's because compounding is guaranteed. You just don't know when. You can screw it up by messing with it, before it matures, and not having the financial literacy and blowing it all. You can always do that. But as long as you maintain compounding is always guaranteed. You just don't know when it's going to hit. Good question, though. But like I said, you guys ask me about that all the time. You do it the least. So get serious. You don't have to do it with us, but if that's what you want to do it. Stop talking about it. What about family estates? Yeah. All right. So, and thank you, YouTube, for being like so engaged. TikTok ain't doing nothing right now. Y'all gotta get on it. So family estates we can do for sure. Sometimes it's a trust estate, like we were just talking about a little while ago. Sometimes it's a family estate. Typically, with the family estates, our architect designs it all out because you're typically talking about having like an acre, maybe a half an acre. The family estate that we're looking at doing next, it's what is it? It's mom, son, and son is married with two kids. Then there are two daughters. One of the daughters has kids. I think the other one doesn't. Neither of the daughters are married. So it's one, two, three, four houses. So it's four houses. I think they want a basketball court. They want a pool. I think there was something about archery, like somebody's into archery, so they want like an archery thing going on. So those are things like you want to custom draw that out. So you sit down with the architect and you draw that out. Now, there's kind of two ways to do that. You can customize everything within the custom drawing. If you do that, then it just costs what it costs, right? Now, if you don't do that, then you can use what's called an economy of scale, right? So if you use an economy of scale, it means that you're going to lower the price by using all the same stuff, right? So all the same tile, right? So in every house, it's the same tile, right? Same bathroom tile, same kitchen tile, all the tiles are the same for the whole house. So now you buy in bulk, you get a bulk discount, right? And we pass that along. We don't just eat the discount. So same roofing, shingles or, whatever it happens to be, terracotta or whatever it is, right? Same faucets, same showers, same doors, same doorknobs, same windows, right? So if those things, right, those finishings, and even the foundation, like same type of brickwork and all that, if those things are all the same, that's when you can utilize an economy of scale. If you want everything to be different, if sis wants the house to be different than mom, and then those are essentially separate projects, and the materials cost what they cost, and we can't get a discount on them because we're only getting like one house's worth of materials, and those vendors are used to selling by the house. That's not a big quantity to them. They expect to sell one house worth of materials. So if we're buying four houses worth of materials, that's when we can negotiate, and that's called economy of scaling. Everyone should be able to do it, but whether they offer it or not is essentially their business model. It's up to them. But any contractor should be able to offer you economy of scale if you're building multiple houses. Good question. Ooh, that is wild. On the YouTube side, TikTok doesn't do this, but YouTube is like tracking my face. So every time I do something, it like zooms in automatically. I am not doing that, YouTube. That's like a feature. Where am I? This is Diani Beach, Kenya. Ooh, you guys are thinking the same thing at the same time. Why Kenya? Okay, so for us, and Kenya might not be right for you, right? So we have like a discovery call process, and we have assessment process on our website. They're both free. The discovery calls might go away because people like to waste my time with those, but they're both options are free. Utilize them because we will absolutely tell you, Kenya's not for you. Find another country, and if we know what country that is, we'll tell you. Right? It doesn't harm us to let you know. Nope, you need to go to wherever. Right? Based on what you're saying is are your goals. Right? But for us, Kenya was number one because of its ease of doing business score. It was very, very easy to start doing business here. Right? Also easy to get caught up in scams and all of that. So make sure you got your legal stuff together. Don't do anything internationally discount. Right? Like, if that's your mindset, just stop. Go back home, give it a couple years and try again. Right? But if your mindset is I'm gonna do everything discount, I'm gonna do everything as close to free as I can, you're gonna get scammed. That's just all there is to it. This is an international endeavor. If you can't afford it, don't do it because you're gonna mess yourself up. Just wait. Just get right, and the same thing like buying a house in the United States, right? Just wait, get your down payment together, like build your credit, like just wait, do it right, stop playing. All right. So for us, ease of doing business score seriously mattered. Having a tech savvy population seriously mattered. Having a young population seriously mattered. This was the first country that did digital payments, right? So because of that, they absolutely are in touch with tech, right? And because they're in touch with tech, it's really easy to do tech business here, or to enhance a business with tech, right? So it's very, very easy. Somebody had asked about agriculture earlier in the live. Very, very easy to come here, buy an existing farm that's doing, and the person's willing to sell it to you because whatever, they're just barely making ends meet, and then add tech, and there's workers who understand the tech and add automated irrigation and add vertical farming and nitrate solutions and tower based farming instead of using up all the acreage the way that they were using the acreage. Like, they will get the tech. The young people here that are ready to work will understand the tech and move forward from that. You don't get that in every African country, right? So that was big for us. Having a thriving tourism market, you don't get that. Like, Namibia does not have a thriving tourism market, right? So having a thriving tourism market mattered as well, because we try to be intentional about not displacing locals ever, right? So the only way that you can do that, the only way that you can come into a country and do any kind of tourism business and not displace locals, is they have to have a tourism market, and then you have to enter that market, right? So there has to be a place where there essentially are no locals. It's already tourism, right? And then you compete there, right? And so that way you're not displacing anybody. So like where I live is technically a tourist market, right? It's called Diani Beach, one of the best beaches in Africa. Over the last 10 years, it's been named best beach in Africa seven years out of the 10, right? So huge tourist destination. Great. So if we set up an Airbnb in an already tourist destination, we're not displacing anybody, right? We're just competing in already. Same thing as like Zanzibar. Zanzibar is an SAR of Tanzania. Huge tourist destination, right? People who go there and compete in tourism, they're not displacing anybody. So that's just our concept. I know there's plenty of people who don't care about displacing people and whatever. That's not us, and we don't work with people like that. So for us, all of those ticks had to be checked, right? That we're not causing any kind of unnecessary, unwanted impact to any local populations. That we're able to go in and engage in tourism because we're already in a tourist area. What up, George? And all of that stuff. So that stuff mattered a lot. But that's why Kenya for us. But Kenya is not the best country, in Africa. It's not the best country in the world. It's the best for us, and it's the best for our clients. So if it ain't the best for you, that's cool. Just when you get on a call with us, just let us know what your goals are. And if we know what the best country for those goals are, we will absolutely let you know. What up, Dave Rivera? Good to see you, man. Come on up, man. We'll talk about it. I think I threw you an invitation, George. Yeah, I'll break that down for you. Offshore and local. What up, brother?
Peace, bro. What's the word?
Holding it all together. You guys on YouTube, I think you can hear George, but you can't see him. He's up talking with me on TikTok. So yeah, what's going on, man?
It's all good, bro. Just settling back in South Africa. Just got my residency in June.
Okay.
We're trying to get more established in business out here,
Yeah.
and trying to decide whether a holding company, a trust, I mean, or both
Right.
is something that I should be doing
Right.
potentially, especially being here, knowing assets, knowing how, I want to make money. I just realized that I can make money legally,
Right.
even as a tool. I'm just like, yo, it's just stuff. You be here, you don't really know what's going on, but the more you hear, the more people you talk to, you start putting pieces together. And now I see I can start something.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get that going as soon as possible.
It
Yeah.
It totally depends on what industry you're in and what your goals are and what you want to do, right? So we've set up, from the law firm perspective, we've set up holding companies for people, operating companies, if you don't have an operating company, the holding company kind of doesn't matter. Now, an operating company
Really?
can be a sole proprietorship. So there's that, right? So you don't
Okay.
have to necessarily have a physical corporation set up as your operating company. You could operate as a sole proprietorship and still have a holding company, right? It complicates
Sure.
things, it complicates liability. We don't ever recommend that, but it's possible. We're not going to lie about the possibility of it, right? But if you got a holding company, what is it holding if you ain't got an operating company? Because holding companies can or should not be active. They can be, but they should not be active, because if they are, now the holding
Okay.
company is open to liability. The whole point of a holding company is it's almost impossible to sue it. So it's almost impossible to get anything that's held in it, right? And that's why you have the holding company. So if you let me think, if you got a landscape company, right? Let's say you're doing lawn mowing because you're tired of people with machetes cutting grass, all right? So
Sure, sure, sure,
you
sure.
bringing in lawn mowing machines and all of that, and you're going to do real landscaping, right? The holding company might actually own all the driving mowers and all of that stuff, right? Whereas the operating company has the contracts to do the work. So they're renting the mowers from the holding company, and then there would be a clause in there somewhere that would hold harmless the holding company. So your operating company would take on any liability. So if the lawnmower hurts somebody or hits somebody or something like that, you already have a contractual agreement, where your operating company is gonna eat that. But the operating company's broke, right?
Okay.
Because the operating
Let me ask.
company
Okay.
is paying royalties to the holding company and renting all the equipment from the holding company, right? So if you don't have an operating company, then the holding company kind of doesn't make sense.
Okay. What if you have the holding company, but you have like let's say, okay, I was a filmmaker, so let's say I wanted to start a film production company. Could I put a film production company under it? Then can I say, okay, well, I want another. I'm also buying land and developing it. Could I put that under it as well? And then those work as operating for, I guess, the holding company's assets
Right. Yeah.
instead of it being an operating. Or you said an operating company would still have to be under the holding
Yeah.
to run these other
Yeah,
businesses.
yeah. So what you can do is you can have like an investment company, right? And the investment company can be a holding company that owns shares in all your other companies and owns IP, right? So the investment company can own all the logos, can own all the trademark stuff, and if you don't have anything that's trademark, well, you should have stuff that's trademark, but the trademark stuff,
Sure, sure.
the copywritten stuff, and if you have patents, great, right? But all of that would then be owned by the investment company, right? That's what they're investing in, right? So they're buying shares in those other companies. They're getting royalties for the logos that they own the trademark to. Even your copywriting, they could own the copyright to the copywriting, and they're getting royalties on all of that stuff, right? Now, where the trust comes in, when you had mentioned the trust, is the trust might own the holding company, right? So that's another layer
Sure.
up. Underneath that investment company, all of the companies that it's buying shares in can be doing completely different things. So, like you said, you have the one company that's buying the land, fine, but that holding company owns 51% of the shares, right? Then you have another company that's doing the production, no problem, but the production company is not like when you have an executive producer and the executive producer is nobody in the film industry at all, they're just money. Right?
Sure.
So they're buying the
Yeah.
executive producer thing by investing in the film. Well, your investment company would handle that, right? So your investment company would be buying those shares and handling that part of it. So you could use that as a holding company, right? And so all of those things could flow back up to the holding company, but the holding company shouldn't necessarily be in a position to be sued, right? Hey,
So
global
they
investor.
shouldn't be doing. Okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. So you're saying, as the investment holding company in this case, um, all they should be doing is putting their money in projects.
Correct.
Whatever the share their holdings
And
are.
and it doesn't have to
Because they
be
hold
their money.
100% of the
It doesn't have to be their
Say
money.
again?
It has to be their value. Right? So like the
Okay, explain
holding
that.
the holding company, the holding company, like I said with the IP stuff, right? The holding company could be creating all the logos. And then you come in and you buy the logo technically from the holding company in a royalty deal, right? So now because your operating company is using the logo that's owned by the holding company as its logo, and that holding company owns the trademark. Every month when you do your books and you say, okay, this month we made $1 million in net profit. Well, now we got a royalty to pay. We got a bill that we got to pay. And that royalty, it has to be reasonable. It can't be 99%, right? But that royalty, the royalty is, let's say, I don't know, 25% of the net profit, right? A 25% profit margin is reasonable, right? So 25% of the net profit is a royalty that has to be paid back to the holding company, right? Now the holding company has money, but when you made the holding company, maybe it didn't have anything. Right, but you initiated all the logos and stuff from the working company. So on paper, essentially, it gave value. Now, its value is obviously the holding structure, right? But it gave value to the operating company, not necessarily money. And part of that deal could have been a share deal. Like, we're going to give you 10% of the shares and this royalty, right? And so that's the way, that goes. So you don't necessarily need to have like a bunch of money that you throw into the holding company and then deploy that capital from the holding. And if you have that, great. You know what I mean? I'm not saying don't do that, but you don't have to do that. You can actually provide value from the holding company and just make sure that the holding company does not operate. And if it's not, because if it doesn't operate, then who has standing to sue it? The only people who have standing to sue it are the companies that you own, because you're in a contractual agreement. So then you can say, well, we have a contract and the holding company violated the contract, so we have grounds to sue, right?
Yeah, no,
But
that makes a lot of sense.
yeah. So just make sure make sure all the money makes its way to the holding company, and make sure the holding company doesn't do business with anybody except for your, operating companies. And so it's the same thing. Like if you own a share of Tesla and Elon Musk goes and does something crazy and gets arrested, they can't arrest you. You're an owner of Tesla. And maybe he did it under the name of Tesla, and he did it while he was, on the clock and all of that. And all the CEOs and CFOs in Tesla go to jail, but the shareholders don't, right? So it's the same thing. Now that holding company is a shareholder. So no matter what lawsuit or what anything happens, on the bottom side, it can't really affect the top side.
Okay, yeah, that's along the lines of what I was thinking. I was actually, like I said, I was trying to get that going on this side because, there's so many opportunities for us. And that U.S. dollar goes very far. I don't think sometimes we underguess that, and it's a lot of us over here.
Yeah.
And a lot of us don't know this information. We're not making holding companies. We're like, yeah, I got a business, and I'm like, you got a business over here, And I hear that, and I'm just like, man, that's kind of risky. Yeah. Considering you're the foreigner with the money. So if somebody wanted to sue somebody, they suing that business you got.
Yeah.
So I definitely needed different.
Right.
See,
Correct.
Money. All I could do was collect the dividend from a company, and I'm like, oh well.
Yeah.
I can't bank everything on film. I can't bank everything on, affordable house development. So. Yeah, that's good to know. That's good information, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And it depends on how litigious it is, because if it's not a very litigious thing that you're doing, where it's like real estate's very litigious. Like people get sued all the time in real estate, whether there's any merit to it or not, and all of that. So, but if it's not very litigious, you can typically get away with insurance at first, right? So you can have an umbrella policy that'll protect you, essentially just as well as a holding company would, and like be okay, right? But if you're in a super litigious situation, or you're making a lot of money, then it just, at that point, you just gotta do the holding company. And then even though a trust is a tax neutral vehicle, sometimes on the corporate side of things, a trust can kind of start fixing like tax situations as well. So it really just depends on how you're, on how you're moving and what level you're at in that moment. Is the insurance robust in Kenya? Yes, it is. It is, and it's highly regulated, which is always a good thing for insurance. And so you really know what you're going to get. I even think the medical insurance is
Really?
way better here in Kenya than in the United States. Like, you're not really sure what they're going to pay for in the United States until you have a problem. Here, you know exactly what they're going to pay for, and that's how you shop, because it's actually regulated that they all offer the same things, but there are different limitations on like pre-existing conditions and like all of that stuff. So they all have the same sandbox and they have to play inside of it. So one company might be like, all right, we'll do a 500,000 in pre-existing. The next company, nah, we only do 300,000, but we'll give you an extra day in a private room, so they play within the sandbox, and that's how you pick your insurance. I just went and had a kidney stone removal like 5 weeks ago, and it ended up costing like a 500,000 local.
Really?
What's that?
Shilling.
Yeah, shilling, yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. That's
Bro, I
not
did. I
bad at
paid
all.
seven. I paid 7 shillings. Like, the insurance paid
Word.
almost everything. Yeah, like they gave me a bill and it was like 7 shillings and that was it, right?
7 shillings.
Yeah.
Yo, I worked in a urology clinic in surgical technology. We did a lot of kidney stones.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, that ain't that ain't 7 shillings. You
Hello, hello.
know what I'm saying? Golly, man, that's a bet.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm still thinking about. We gonna have to talk in the coming months because I still would like to get a residency in an East African
Yeah,
country.
yeah, for sure.
And I know you can help me out with that for sure. Now
Yeah.
I'm 35, so now I
Cool,
qualify. You know
cool,
what I'm
yeah,
saying? It took a while, bro. It took a while. Listen, I was going through the ringer for some time, so yeah. Now I think I'm gonna come there, man. I got one in South Africa, got one in Liberia. It'd be nice to have one in Kenya too.
Yeah.
See, because I'm doing business and I'm trying to do business as much as possible, man. I'm noticing.
I feel
There's a
like
lot
you
of
can get
people
all
over
three of those
here.
passports too. There's some places like Tanzania where you
Yeah.
can't, but I think you can get all three passports.
Yeah, I believe so. Liberia, man, Liberia opened that door for me.
They're robust
I'm
in
trying to get
Nigeria.
that citizenship now.
Okay, global investors talking about in Nigeria that the insurances aren't they're not robust. Yeah, no, I've heard that before. And it took us a while. Like, for a little while, we didn't even bother with the insurance out here. It took us a while, but man, they did so much crazy stuff medically out here, that like saved my family's life, quite frankly. At least my son, because my son was born preemie, and it was like an emergency C-section thing. And so I ended up calling America. I was like, look, I called my doctor that I've always gone to, you know what I mean? I'm like, the life is on the line, you know what I mean? I ain't playing no games. And so I called, everybody I know. And in America, there's a place called the Naval Yard in Philly. And the Naval Yard is like one of the newest hospitals. That's where I used to go, right? Just pay an arm and a leg to go there. So I'm calling the Naval Yard, and they got top of the line, technology and all of that. And they're talking about, okay, you got to leave her in the hospital for the next 48 hours and monitor her, and they're going to pump her full of steroids for 48 hours straight, and then like hope that those steroids grow your son's lungs. And then, but when your son is born, he's going to have asthma forever. He's not going to be able to be an athlete or nothing like that. He's going to have breathing problems. And the Kenyans were like, "Who are you talking to? Fred Flintstone? Like, what? What are you talking about?" They flew in
Yeah.
a specialist in like a epigeneticist or something like that. Homeboy, well, it was a lady. She came in and took the what's it called? Not spinal fluid. The not cervical fluid. What's it called? The amniotic fluid. She came in and took the amniotic fluid. She apparently amniotic fluid has stem cells of both the baby and the mother. I didn't know that. So she she separated out the stem cells, ran a bunch of tests on the stem cells to see exactly which medication combinations would work best for both without harming either. Came up with that,
Wow.
did 12 hours of whatever therapy that she came up with. Baby came out screaming, fully, mature lungs, the whole nine. Ain't got no asthma, ain't got no nothing. Runs around, Lungs are fine. He's fine. It's like he was a full-term baby.
Oh,
They ended up calling for that doctor to come to the United States. Philly,
really?
yeah, the Philly doctors were like, we want her information, we want her email, we want the charts, we want the, what I mean, all of that. And they were like, oh, you need to come
What?
here and like, talk with us and blah 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 blah. So I don't know how
Oh,
deep that went, but
that, but
yeah,
it was a conversation starter. No,
right.
that's incredible.
Yeah, man, yeah, yeah, it's pretty wild. And
Uh,
that thing that cost 50,000 shillings. Like the whole thing, the emergency C-section, the birth,
that's
all of
interesting.
that, the specialists flying in and all of that. So which is it's like $300. It's like $380. For y'all
Yeah,
watching
that's
from America
nothing.
and don't know what the 50,000 shillings is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty
Man,
interesting.
that's incredible. You know, say I only go to the doctor like a primary care every once in a or like every few months. But I think I'm gonna get more stabilized. But that's what I said. Like I like hearing that in Kenya that is because I like Kenya Airways, man. I've been catching Kenya Airways lately.
Oh,
It's
nice,
nice. It's really
nice.
nice. They're accommodating. It's been making me like, man, I should really go over there. But what's up with you get? You know what? That's another conversation for another day. But you getting to talking about they want the sea? I'm a little confused. Like, is that a
Oh,
thing in Kenya?
I don't know. We from here, from what I can tell, I'm not highly engaged in politics because I don't have a vote, right? But from
Oh,
what I
okay,
can
okay,
tell, it's like a joke. Like everybody is just laughing
okay,
about it. Like they're
okay.
not taking it seriously
Fair.
at all.
Okay, cool, cool, cool,
but
cool.
but
That's cool
yeah,
then. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So we'll have to see like
I was
what
wondering because
you know.
you know repatriates look for any reason not to come some.
Oh
You're so
yeah,
funny.
yeah. So good at excuses, so bad at action.
But yeah, no, that's awesome, bro. I appreciate that information. I'm gonna get out of here, but y'all, I really thank you for that because
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
I got some good plans and I'm trying to keep it going. So
Yeah.
I'll be connecting with you soon. I got your information pertaining uh, getting a residency in country. I'm gonna
Gotcha.
have to do it. I don't know. Yeah, we just have to plan it.
Yeah.
I'll come out to maybe you're in Diani, right?
Yeah, I'm in Diani. Yep.
Next to Mombasa. Is that next to Mombasa?
Yeah, south of Mombasa.
Okay, can I do my residency there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We always do it through Mombasa.
All right, cool, cool. Yeah, yeah, I'll come through. All right, cool.
Yeah,
All right,
man.
we'll connect soon, brother.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for coming through, man.
All right, man.
Yeah, Global, I am back in Kenya. Came back from China just a couple of days ago. I'm just now getting over the jet lag. So today is my first day like back to work. I think I went live yesterday, but today's my first day that I'm like answering emails and working today. Got a bunch of meetings today. I think I got a meeting with you tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, YouTube. All right. Sorry, I missed your question on that side. You were asking when is the trust necessary in that structure. So we were talking about insurance maybe can cover you, and then all right. So when does it come into play with the trust? So for example, there's a beach hotel that we had set up for a client, and for them they have international bookings, right? And so I'm trying to global. I'm trying to. I just started, but I'm trying to go live every day at like this time. They have international bookings, and what they had set up was they have the booking company. The booking company is in Seychelles. Seychelles has a corporate tax rate of 0%. So all international business goes through Seychelles, through that booking company. And then they owe 0% taxes on that international business. Any local Kenyan business has to go through Kenya and they pay, taxes on that. And so the trust owns both. And the trust in that situation was set up in Mauritius because there was a bunch of money already involved, right? In order to open a beachfront hotel, you got some coins, right? So there was already a bunch of money involved which is the deciding factor of which one you choose and how much protection you need, right? So that operating money, right, what they call runway, the money that they were going to use to manage the hotel for the first year or two to get up to a point where it's now making money, right? When you do serious business, you have to expect not to make money for a certain amount of time when you first start. And that is called a runway. You have X amount of dollars of runway to keep the business going for however long you think it's going to take you to start making money, right? So that runway was in the trust. The trust owned the booking company and the actual physical hotel, right? And the taxes for each individual outfit was paid to its respective jurisdiction holder. One jurisdiction was Seychelles, the other jurisdiction is Kenya, right? So when those guests arrive in Kenya and start buying room service and stuff, all that tax money is called VAT. It's like sales tax. That all goes to Kenya, right? You can't like not pay your taxes. But the people who were doing international bookings from their home countries, they were engaging with Seychelles to do bookings. And then there's a booking agreement between Seychelles and the Kenyan hotel, right? So that made sense for them because the Seychelles tax rate was 0%. Corporate tax rate on IBC is 0%, still is 0%, right? But in order to get a 0% IBC tax rate, the company that's an IBC has to not be doing business in the jurisdiction. So that booking company cannot book any clients who are Senegalese or Seychelles citizens, right? So it always has to be a non-Seychelles citizen. So that on their booking, there's that weird like question, like, are you a citizen of Seychelles, right? Which you wouldn't typically see on like Booking.com, and that's to keep them compliant. But that's when things like that come into place. So if you're going to go do a big thing, you got all your friends together, you pooled your money, you're about to go do a beach hotel, then it might make sense to have that kind of structure. And that's actually a very simplified, it's not very complex at all. You have one trust that owns both operating companies, and then the operating companies are in different jurisdictions for tax reasons, and that's it. You just have to make sure your paperwork is good and that all your deals are arm's length for some jurisdictions. Some other jurisdictions don't actually have an arm's length doctrine. But arm's length means that the deal you do with the business that you own in common is identical to a deal that you would do with the business that you don't own. And the way you prove that is by getting quotes, right? So you go to a bunch of booking agencies, you get quotes for what they would charge, and then you charge yourself the same thing. I'm going to try to post twice a day. I'm turning my TikTok and YouTube channel into a news desk. Oh, very, very nice. Very, very nice. Yeah, once I came back from China, and like the jet lag thing is hitting, and so I've been waking up earlier, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just keep waking up earlier, and then I'll do like an hour live every morning, and see how that goes. Typically, I'm too busy to go live, and then the folks in the organization who are not too busy to go live don't know what I know. That's why they're not too busy to go live. So all the highly skilled people are busy. The social media manager and the lower skilled people are not as busy, but they can't answer questions. So it's one of those catch-22 situations. Hey, Jay Rivero, thanks for coming through, man. Have a great day, my friend, and say hello to the class. Actually, if there's anything you want me to cover in a video or whatever specifically for the class, just shoot that over to me, man, and I'll make a video and tag you in it, and then you can use it, in that classroom setting. And I'll make it with students in mind. Right, CEO problems. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll find a fix for that. We'll get something going. But I'm trying this. I'm trying to see if I can do a daily. If I have to cut back, that's fine. Maybe 3 times a week is good enough. We'll see. China ? Just came back from China. What's the question mark? What do we do in China? Are we going back? Do we like it? Oh, it was great. Yeah, I lived there 14 years ago. So that was cool to see how much it's changed in 14 years. So that was really cool. Went seeing some old friends. We'll probably be going to China like twice a year. You've been there once? Yeah, yeah. Definitely a very different situation from north to south. I don't I don't like northern China all that much. But southern China has always been a favorite of mine. So we went to Guangzhou, which is almost as south as you can get. And then we went to a couple other places, like where I used to live, which is a small. It's a small city called Xinhui. I think it's the same size as New York City, but in China it's small. And and Jiangmen and all these places. Went to Foshan and Shenzhen for business and all of that. So yeah, it came together really really well. One of the biggest takeaways was our tech for the smart houses that we build. We've been able to upgrade that without having to upgrade the prices. So the smart house upgrade price is the same because we were able to negotiate, with those engineers, but the smart appliances are on another level. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm almost positive we're going to go to Canton Fair in April. And then there should be another time. There should be another one in October. So definitely, we will let you know, and you can definitely come through. You have to buy all of our stuff. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah, and you want to do economies of scale. So you want to be able to buy all your stuff and get the discount and all of that. And yeah. And we typically, one of the things that we negotiated also was DDP shipping, which is delivery, what is it? Delivery duty paid, right? So delivery duty paid would put us then in a position where now we can get our pricing straight because when the stuff gets here, customs can't do anything with you. So they can't be like, oh, you need to pay us this, you need to pay us that, you need to pay a bribe, you need to pay it. No, everything is paid. So the shipper pays all the duty, and there's a paper trail. And so if they play with you, they get in serious trouble. It might be a little bit more expensive than paying the duty yourself, but if you're in business, that doesn't matter. That matters if you're like trying to buy stuff to build your own house, right? So, but if you're in business, that don't matter. So what ends up happening is you can just adjust prices to cover the delivery duty paid. But yeah, I've never seen a country that doesn't, because it ends up being filtered through the actual shipping company, right? So if they screw with it, they lose the shipping company, not like your shipper or your little shipment or whatever. And typically those people are politically connected to even have a slip at the docks. You know what I mean? They're normally politically connected. So when they show up and they say, we've already paid the duty on this, that's typically the end of that. But yeah, even the most like ridiculous ports, which none of them are in Africa actually. Most of them are in the Caribbean and the South Pacific. But even the most ridiculous ports where like stuff goes missing all the time, they don't play with DDP shipping. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it might, like if you brought stuff in, let's say you brought in a container yourself and you paid the duty on that container. Delivery duty paid might be a little bit more, like it might be 10% more or something like that, right? But it's just worth it to not have a headache. Because with the delivery duty paid, a lot of times they deliver to your doorstep. So the shipping company itself pays the duty, clears it off the docks, puts it on a tractor trailer, drives it to your site. That's all part of, the delivery fee. So you don't even have to deal with immigration, or customs. Can you? I thought Nigeria drove on the same side of the road as Kenya, as the UK. Do they drive on the same side as America? Because China drives on the same side as America. So as long as you drive on the same side as America, you can. Oh, okay, yeah, you can. You can. For us, we would have to bring cars in from Hong Kong because Hong Kong drives on the same side as the UK. So Chinese cars wouldn't be able to come to Kenya, but Hong Kong cars would. But that's a whole different, like, even though Hong Kong is part of China, it's an SAR, like Zanzibar. And so they have their own rules. They have their own, like, they call him the chief executive. Like, they have their own president and all that. So that's a whole different negotiation. It's a different currency. The Hong Kong dollar is a different currency than the Chinese yen. So that's a whole thing. But but yeah, if we wanted to get involved with that, we would have to do Hong Kong. But yeah, definitely. If you're same side as U.S., yeah, the cars. I don't know how cheap they are because I didn't look into the. You know what I mean? I do know this though. The and rightfully so. I mean, I can't knock the the business model, but it seems like they offload the cheap cars to whoever wants to export, and they got some nice cars. So the play might be the luxury play. Like, the play might not be the cheap pay. The play might be like, no. We want your new cars. We want, because they're nice. They're all very, very nice. So China purposefully allowed Tesla to enter the market with no Chinese oversight, and they did it to light a fire under the ass of the Chinese EV makers, which that's exactly what happened, right? It's actually called catfish theory, right? So you drop the catfish into a tank full of sardines, and it makes the sardines run for their lives, and so you get, supposedly bigger, stronger, tastier sardines, right? Because they're doing more exercise and all of that. So they use Tesla as the catfish, and their cars are ridiculous. Like, that, to beat Tesla, they came up with all kinds of crazy stuff. We were in this BYD that has a drone built into the car, and so when you get lost, and I guess it was to compete with what's his satellite company, because now the satellite company that he owns can give you like GPS stuff or whatever for the Teslas or whatever. So the drone pops out the ceiling of the BYD, flies up in the air, scans the city, and then gives you GPS, right, to be a Starlink, right? So that was like their answer to that. So the stuff they came up with is wild. It's wild. Every car that we got into, and these were like taxis. These are cars being used as taxis, right? Had a crazy display system because the Teslas all have the big touch screen, right? They were all touch screen. They all had crazy graphics that showed what was going on with the car, how much battery was left, and blah, 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 blah. And we ended up taking a taxi. It was like a 4-hour trip, right? We ended up taking a taxi from, like, what was it? It was Panyu to like Shenzhen, which Shenzhen is on the border of Hong Kong, right? So we took like a taxi and this crazy trip. And an EV showed up, and we're like, they're going to cancel the trip because they're going to run out of battery in that 4 hours. Man, that EV showed up. He didn't even bat an eyelash. We got in that car, made it all the way down there. It seemed like it only took 10% of the battery. It was crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, business models are business models. Maybe you are trying to do the older, whatever, the cheaper, older stuff. But I know how Nigerians are. I know they like to, they got their little financial literacy issues, and you bring in these, and these are like cars that are normal to them. These are not Maybachs. These are not. We seen Lotus dealerships over there. Like, I was driving by and we seen 2 Lotus dealerships while we was over there. So it's, yeah. Yeah. You can bring some really cool stuff over there, and the Nigerians will come make it rain for you. So, but yeah, now that's cool that you guys drive on the same side. I remember when I lived in China, I was like, oh, this is cool. I can drive here. They don't allow that, though. They don't allow you to drive on like an international driver's license. You got to take the test. You got to. Yeah, Yeah, no, definitely literate. Definitely literate. You know, just, I don't know. Vision, I don't even know what the issue is. I don't know. Cultural issues, I guess. But definitely literate because they make it back. You know what I mean? They burn it, but they make it back. Professional flossers. we, there was something, you might even know who it is because I would assume it made the same headlines it made over here. This was years ago though, maybe 6 years ago. Somebody did a maybe it was a proposal. I don't know, but they did some kind of proposal, like out of a plane. Like they jumped out of a plane and like released like what's that thing called, a pallet full of money. So it was like raining money from the sky, and like that was their wedding proposal somewhere in Nigeria. It was wild. It was wild. Kenyan men were sweating for a while there. The ladies were like, "How come you ain't jump out of a plane?" And with money flying out the sky, it was tough. It was tough for the Kenyans for a little while there. Oh man, but yeah, no, great people though. You know, I've always had good times with Nigerians. All right, cool. I'm so sorry. You know what? The lettering on YouTube is so much smaller. I'm sorry if it seems like I'm ignoring you. Luckily, all you said was like, "Okay, I got it now." But it is more difficult for me to see when you guys comment on YouTube. So I'll try to pay more attention to you guys. All right. It has been over an hour. That's what I did yesterday. I think that's what I'm going to try to do every day. If you guys have any other questions on that, let me know. I think tomorrow we're just going to talk about what it takes to relocate. We're going to talk about the different types of permits, not visas. Visas only get you into a country. They do not give you the authority to work, even if it's a business visa. It does not give you the authority to work or live in a country. It just allows you access, right? Stop talking about retirement visas. They do not exist here. Stop talking about work visas. They do not exist here. All right. Those things are permits, but we'll get into that tomorrow. And we'll break down what all the different permits do, how they work, what the requirements are, and how you can come out here either to live or be an investor, right? We have a lot of investors actually, right? So we have a lot of investors that do not come here at all, right? They build Airbnbs here. They wire us the money. We build their Airbnb for them. We manage it for them. We do all of those things, but they do not ever step foot in Kenya, but they do have a permit, so they can live here if they want to, right? You have to have an investor permit to do that. But they're just investors. It's just part of their investment portfolio. They never show up, right? So we'll get into all those things tomorrow. That'll be the topic of discussion for tomorrow. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to throw those questions in the chat. And if I don't see anything, I'll end it. Once my coffee's done, the live's over. Great seeing you too, Global. All right, looks like we're good. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me, and we will see you tomorrow morning.